Welcome to the Therapist's Invitation. I'm Trever Sharon.
I'm Mark Mayfield.
And Mark, this is going to be maybe a math-oriented episode.
Well, you've asked the wrong person to be your co-host here. Because
should have gone with my wife.
Yeah.
Here's the question.
Okay.
When do you add and when do you minus?
Well, we got that wrong right there, because when do you add and when do you subtract is probably the best way to say it. So,
oops,
we are really good cut out for this episode.
Starting out on such a strong foundation for this episode.
For those of you that are math whizzes, don't hate us, please. We don't know what we're talking about. When do you add and when do you subtract? I don't know. Is that a trick question?
No, but it sounds like it because there's not enough information.
No, there's not. I'm like, where are we going with this?
Where, when, what, how? What about in life? Like, when do we add things to our lives and when do we subtract things from our lives?
Well, I think there's a couple things off the top of my head. Is either it's going to be intentional or it's going to be out of necessity.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Well, intentional means that you have a handle on your life and what's important. And, I was meeting with my therapist a couple weeks ago, and she asked me this question. She goes, I know you know boundaries. She knows I'm a therapist. She's like, I know. She goes, so she basically said, this is kind of awkward, me talking to you about this kind of stuff. I'm like, no, I'm your client. I'm not a therapist. So she goes, okay. She goes, well, you know about boundaries, but she goes, have you looked at boundaries as pillars? And so what pillars are, what are important pillars in your life? And then everything that you decide has to revolve around those pillars. And I said, so she goes, what are your pillars? And I said, well, my family's number one. Mm-hmm. My faith. She goes, well, I want you to rank them. She goes, just tell me what your pillars are. I'm like, okay, my relationship with God, my relationship with my family, and my ability to provide for my family. Mm-hmm. She goes, is that it? She goes, what about friends? I said, well, friends, I have, a couple friends that I really enjoy, but I'm like, the goal of friendship is not something that's really super important to me. Like, the friends I have, I'm pour into, and that's really important to me. But like making new friends,
Well, and if any of those other pillars fell apart, the whole thing would be in danger. Yeah. Whereas with friends, maybe that is a really appropriate place to have it as not that
one of those pillars. Yeah. And so she goes, okay, then you add them, subtract based on the importance of and the health of those pillars. And she goes, you might have different pillars throughout your life. Right now you have a family growing, and that kind of stuff. So that's really important. Providing, relationally, emotionally, physically. It's important. So that's what I'm talking about with that. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, but then out of necessity is when the wheels fall off.
Right.
Like 2020 has been a wheel falling off type of year,
totally.
And now we're into 2021 and it feels like a bad sequel.
Yeah. So far.
Yeah. So, but I like, that's my 2 cents. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I love that. Because I think this idea is really coming from just thinking about, well, it really originated in a motivational interviewing class.
So tell people what that is.
So motivational interviewing.
You're welcome, Bree.
Yeah, is a process or a modality of counseling that, man, how do I explain this without clinical language?
The spot.
Yeah. So motivational interviewing is really cool just because it basically just challenges the thoughts that a client has. And so if a client comes in and is saying, like, I really want to quit drinking, it's most often used with addictions. I want to stop drinking, but I drank, yesterday and I'm going to have a drink tonight. And so rather than the counselor saying, like, well, that's dumb. Like, you said you wanted to drink, but this is happening. Instead, flipping it on its head and saying, like, well, why do you want to stop drinking? Like, it sounds like it's doing something for you. And really, I mean, it's a really beautiful way of challenging the thoughts in a unique way that feels counterintuitive.
Well, most people are listening going, reverse psychology.
Yeah, it's not really
reverse psychology.
Maybe it's probably just bad explanation.
No, I don't think it's a bad explanation. But I think people are so used to reverse psychology.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's really challenging the concept of the internal belief.
Yeah. Is this actually something you want to do, or is this something you're being told you have to do?
Right.
And the reason that this idea came to me was the thought of, like, if I have somebody who is dependent on X, Y, or Z, I don't really help them out by removing X, Y, and Z, because X, Y, and Z are doing something for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I am, let's say, someone is addicted to pornography. Okay, super common. I think like 75% of the population engages something crazy.
Sadly,
yeah. If we were just to completely eliminate pornography use for that individual, there's going to be a huge void of something that pornography use is fulfilling for them. And it might be intimacy. It might be
it has nothing to do
dopamine.
with,
it might be all of these sort of things. But there's a gap now.
There's a hole.
And so what may end up happening,
or a bigger hole than they're trying to fill in the beginning.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what may end up happening is that we've just subtracted from a negative number already. If you subtract from a
help.
So we've subtracted from a 0.
We don't know what we're talking about.
We were at 0 and we just minused 1. So we're at a really bad place because there's nothing to fill that. There's nothing to satisfy that desire for intimacy or that whatever the dependency is supporting. Instead, we want to
create a deeper deficit.
Yeah, a deeper deficit. Much better language. Instead, if we can provide some benefits, some things to take the place, a coping strategy that is more effective or more helpful, more healthy, and then we can remove X, Y, and Z because it's safe to do so. And so it was the idea of like, we always talk about subtracting, taking away the stuff that isn't helping us or removing the people that aren't supporting us in our goals or leaving our jobs that aren't helpful to us or that we're miserable in. But very rarely do we talk about, what's taking that place, or even better, what can we do right now that's going to satisfy the needs that we're fulfilling with this or that we need fulfilled in order to provide a way where we can have something to subtract from.
Well, the first thing that popped to my mind is the whole phrase, the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah.
Adage, and I saw something on the meme the other day on LinkedIn that said the grass is greener on the other side until you get over there and realize it's spray painted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's true is that, if we spend so much time in our current situations looking at the negative or we also need to create margin, I think is the same thing. So I think what you're saying with somebody like the pornography example, it's not healthy. Mm-hmm. It is detrimental to relationships, to our brain, to our body, all that kind of stuff. And if we just take that away without creating something else, whether it be going back to our fake it till we become it or being who we are or becoming or whatever, if we're not helping people along that journey, then there's no growth. And so you think about, I'm going all over the place today, guys, so sorry, but I think we have a modality that we use called EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's a trauma therapy. And the reason I bring that up is that there's a tool that we use to see where people are health-wise if they are ready to start this, because reliving trauma in that way can be really hard. And it's called the brief symptom inventory. And basically the brief symptom inventory scales things for us. And we need to look at the window of tolerance, the margin. And if they're in that window, that means that they have enough coping skills on either side that if we start taking things away or start engaging things, that they are able to cope with that. And so when we're talking about addition and subtraction, it has to be yes. It has to be a both and.
Yeah.
And so what are we adding margin-wise? Yeah. So if somebody's, and this is why quitting anything cold turkey is really hard.
Yeah.
But somebody comes into you and says, I want to work on my addiction. Are they adding something by coming to you?
Hopefully.
But just by coming to you, I think they're adding something. There's that ability to go, okay, I've got somebody that I can come talk to when I'm struggling. Yeah. So I think by nature, we can start taking things away if somebody comes to us as a counselor, but we need to continue to add things.
Yeah. To further muddle all mathematic laws.
If you're following us right now, you're a genius.
Or you're a genius and you're like, no, they're so wrong. This is so off. So I'm going to make it worse.
Yeah.
Subtraction is a positive, as well as addition is a positive. They can both be negative as well. So it's not that
it goes back to I'm just teaching research class, and there's negative and positive correlations, and they have nothing to do with whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
So let's step away from math, maybe just a little bit, because I know
you might need to
this
pull
isn't
over right
working.
now because you're laughing so hard at us.
So
Gosh.
when we take things away from our lives,
Okay.
let's say we take away some people that are really leading us to be somebody we don't want to be, pulling out the traits of us that we want to change or make different.
Okay.
When we subtract those people from our lives, it's a positive impact on our lives.
Right.
If we add a substance use, or if we add an addiction or a dependency,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a positive impact on our lives.
No,
it's
it's
a
not.
negative.
Yep.
But it's still adding to what we're doing.
Right.
And so I think it's important for us to reflect on what is our window of tolerance? How much room do I have to take away or to add?
Mm-hmm.
And if I add another thing, am I overwhelmed because there's too much? If I take away
Yeah.
something, do I not have anything left?
Well, I was thinking about resilience and grit. Like we've talked about this quite a bit. And I was just thinking, reflecting on my 2020 experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to go into great detail, but we had a lot of family traumas and emergencies in my family this year. Coupled with 2020 and the pandemic, like my window of tolerance shrunk significantly into the negative. Right, I was operating out of nothing, operating from a burnout perspective. And all that kind of stuff. Deficit. If it was just the pandemic, I don't think I would have. I had enough reserves. Yeah. If it was just almost losing parents and no pandemic, maybe it would have been okay. Yeah. But you add all that together, and so I think that's where we got to take a step back and go, what are we talking here? Yeah. And how are we engaging this in a way that is genuine to where we're at in the journey?
Yeah. Balance is something we talk about a lot, and I think that's really where this lands of, what do I have to add here, take away there in order to find balance? And unfortunately, our internal scales are not standardized.
No.
They change almost daily, sometimes hour to hour.
Oh, good. I'm glad you said that. 'Cause
so
yeah,
it really is a practice of understanding where your balance is. What is your threshold? How do you visualize it that is going to allow you to do this balancing act of, okay, I know that I have like 15 million projects that I need to do right now. I also know that I'm hungry. And in order to maintain my balance, in order to maintain what I need to do, I need to take time away from these projects in order to feed myself.
Well, it was, I'm glad we're saying, it's interesting we're having this conversation because I'm recovered, but I'm still struggling with energy from COVID. And, I had a late night last night. I was teaching research class at the university I teach at until like 9:00. And I like to go to bed at like 8:30, like, to be honest. But I come up early in the morning. Yeah. But I was supposed to meet somebody really early this morning. And I texted him and said, I'm sorry. Like my energy reserves are zapped. I can't. Knowing too that we had 2 video shoots this morning that I wanted to make sure I was prepared for and ready for. And so thinking about all those things last night before I was heading to bed was like, I am slightly overwhelmed and not sure I have the margin for that. And then I'm speaking today at a church. Yeah. Like, so big day, good day, but big day. Yeah. And so I just had to recalibrate, now if I had my energy back fully, it probably wouldn't have been an issue. Yeah. But I recognized the feeling last night. I was doing well. And I guess this is the ebbs and flows of recovering from COVID. Like I hit a wall again yesterday and I was like back to 75% of myself. And I'm like, So I think it is that recalibration and it's that recognition of, like you said, it's a moving target. It's not something that's going to be set in stone. Yeah. Which can frustrate people.
Oh yeah. It's super frustrating. It'd be way easier if there was just a standard and we could say like, do this, this, and this, and you're going to live your best life. Anyone who tells you that is a fraud.
I can think of a bunch of authors right now and people that are on the news or TV that are saying, hey, just do these things.
Be more honest if we said like, it's going to help. It might support. This is an option. There's no single answer to life.
Well, but I think that's going to be the joy. Like I'm just thinking about my book. That's the joy and frustration of my book too, is that I provide a lot of questions, a lot of opportunities, but very rarely do I provide a hard and fast solution. Yeah. and talking about loneliness.
Yeah.
Talking about mental health. Like,
yeah,
I like how you said that.
It's about journey, not destination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In so many things.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so as we always do, practicality. Like for me, it feels like right now, I'll be honest, it feels like a bunch of things swirling around.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason I got a counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, help me make sense of this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I love these conversations with you, and I hope this models this to other people as well, because this is good as well.
Yeah.
Provides hope and encouragement. What would you do?
I think I'm going to go real simple, like baby steps here. Identify the most impacting thing that you could take away and the most impacting thing that you could add. And for you right now, that might mean I'm going to take away this party that I was invited to. Probably not, because we're in COVID. I'm going to take away this thing that I'm invited to,
right?
That I'm dreading. And instead, I'm going to add going to bed just a little bit early, because I know that that's going to help me with my balance, and I'll have more tomorrow. Simple things like as you start having those conversations with yourself, you start developing a sense of balance internally.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm thinking about a couple months from now, I'm going to be adding a third child to our family, and so I've chosen to take away a month of work. I mean.
Which speaks to it's not equivalent.
No.
Like you're a month off of work and having a third child do not. They aren't equivalent.
They weren't equivalent, but it provides some more margin.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not going, but then it goes into my pillars.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Providing for family. Well, it just so happens that both jobs are able to provide time off and still be paid.
Yep.
Which is great. So but again, it might not be equivalent. Sleep and party are not equivalent, but health is a lot more important than social. But social is part of health, and so it
really is a balancing act.
You got to play around with all those things.
Because one night you might want social over sleep
because you just need to be with.
Because that's what you need.
Yeah. Because that's what we all need right now.
Right. So. Totally. Well, I hope that this has been just confusing enough to be challenging. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, if you're a math person and you want to write a proof of what we said and send it to us, I would love to read that.
Yep. Everywhere that we're wrong.
Yeah, I enjoy reading proofs as little as I understand mathematic concepts. But I hope that you can go forward and find some balance in your life and just explore this thought as we continue on this journey.
Yep. Sounds good. See you next time.